Good day, GBO. This is Denny, and I'm going to go through a little short video about the conversion of an SB2 receiver to taking the rebounding hammer. And what I did is knocked out the pins, pulled everything apart, took out the transfer bar. I took out that little flat piece that goes in between the trigger and up to the transfer bar area. And I replaced the single coil spring with a double coil spring. And I put in the older style hammer with the double notches in it. So I'm supposed to have a half cock feature with that, but I don't quite have it. I'll show you here, and so you can also hear the notches or where it engages. And see, it didn't lock back there. I get it to lock back when it's all the way to the rear. And nothing that time until it was all the way back. There's a little bit of click. So I don't have it all the way there yet. And I think Tim hit the nail on the head when he was talking about the trigger return spring being too short. When I first disassembled this receiver after some time owning it, I discovered that the trigger return spring was missing. And the trigger was very, very light and not reliable. And after owning it for some time, I never even had a barrel on it the whole entire time. And now I know that the trigger return spring was obviously the reason for the incredibly light trigger. And so this was an easy one for me to do the conversion on and play around with it a little bit and see how it works. When I first did the conversion, I couldn't find the spring, so I put in one that I had laying on the bench, and it was from another rifle or something I had laying around, and I discovered that it was very short. When put into the trigger guard hole in the top, it barely sat out of the hole. I assembled it anyways just to play around with it and see how it worked, and it would lock back. But what I found when I started hitting it with the nylon or plastic hammer is it would set off. With just one hit, the hammer would go forward. So I took it out, I pulled the spring apart with pliers and lengthened it. And now I seem to have pretty good reliability. I can't get it to go off. I'm still not satisfied with the fact that the spring is not the spring that it was designed to have. And Tim sent a link to me, and I'm going to get on there and order a spring, and I'm probably going to go with one that's a little bit longer than needed. And I'll trim it a little long in the beginning and test it out, in and out, shorten it up, see what I need to do to get to the optimal length for reliability and functionality. I'm going to show you too, one of the other concerns I had about this was whether or not the hammer would function well enough to push that firing pin forward and have the firing pin come out and do what it needs to do to detonate primers. So I took a piece of brass like this 6.5 Grendel, and I laid it over top of there, over top of the firing pin hole in the receiver. You can see it knocks it around pretty good. In fact, we're going to launch it here in just a second. You can see works just fine. Now I'll show you when it's offset to the side and not over top of the firing pin hole. Not a thing. See, you can actually even see the firing pin come out. Now I won't put a barrel on this until I've had a chance to return or to replace the return spring and get it to where I want it. But until then, I think that I'm on the right track in getting that replaced to get the optimal performance and use out of this receiver with the rebounding hammer. One of the things I like about them is that they're a lot shorter than the modern hammers, and I shouldn't have to try to trim it down, drill and tap it for an extension or anything else. It should sit low enough that I could get low rings on there with a standard height scope mount base. All right, GBO, I am going to sign off. Until next time, this is Denny.